Welcome to OLC 40, Term 2B, Class 33, Assignment 44 in the portfolio. Today is the second last class of this course. It is June 11th, 2025, and this is Jillian Percy. Here are all the ways to contact us. If you want to talk to me while I'm in the studio, 1-800-465-7144. The office number is 1-800-667-3703, and my extension is 2211. My email is jillian.percy@nnec.on.ca. My Facebook, capital G, capital P, ERCY, space, capital W, AHSA. If you do a friend request, please send me a little message telling me who you are, like your proper name, what course you're in, and what help you need. And then there are two different YouTube channels you can look at. My teacher channel has the series of courses I've just been doing now from Term 2B, and there'll be a playlist there. And then the WASA channel, which is called the WASA Distance Education channel, it will not have the current version of this course. It has the one from Term 1A, but it is not significantly different from from the one we did before. So it's fine to use that one, okay? Okay. How to hand in assignments. First of all, you can fax them to me, 1-800-463-7852. That's if you're in Ontario. If you're anywhere else, 1-877-990-2023. If there's a learning center in your community, then the person in charge, we call them the DEC, go talk to them, get them to scan it, and email it to us at studentwork@nnec.on.ca. Always hang on to your originals, okay, because you'll need them later on for the portfolio. You can also, if you do your work on computer, just email it to me directly at studentwork@nnec.on.ca and include the assignment as an attachment. Some people like to use Google Docs to do their work, in which case you can share it with me at jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. I don't think you can share with the student work as not a person. And some people also like to hand in their assignments through photographs, either through Facebook or through the email. When you do that, the photograph must be nice and clear and easy to read, and then make sure to share it as an attachment rather than inserting it into the body of the email. The best possibility, if you're, well, better than taking a photograph anyways, is download a scanner app on your phone, and then you can use the scanner app to take scanner quality photographs, which are a much higher quality than just a regular photograph. There's a program called Adobe Scan that you can download and put on your phone. It's free. And then you can, I apologize, guys, all the smoke in the air is making me cough a bit here. You can take a picture with same way you take a regular picture. You line up the little blue dots in the corners, snap the picture, and you keep on doing that until you've got all your pages done. Hit continue. It will let you preview it, and you can reorder things, crop, whatever you need to do. Save PDF, give it a name. Usually I give it the course name plus the assignment number, and then save it to wherever you save your things to, whether it's Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever it is, and then email me the version of it, okay? All right. This is the last week of the course. Tomorrow is the last class. I would normally say tomorrow's probably the last day I will accept assignments. But if you're really having trouble getting things done, talk to me and I can work on Friday if I need to. Please hand in any work that you have completed already immediately, like send it to me this moment. If there's a reason that you are unable to do so, like you don't think you're gonna get finished, things happening, contact me right after I get off this show, okay? If you are running so far behind your assignment that you're not going to finish this week, that's fine. You can just enroll in the summer version of the course and continue your work then. I will also be doing the marking in the summer, although there are no live classes during the summer term and I won't be here in the office. But I will be checking my email and I will be marking work, so don't worry about that part. The recorded classes that we were talking about, it will be the same class up until the new September, okay? Now, If you want to enroll for the summer course, you can let me know in an email. You can call the office. You can also go to Facebook, the WASA Distance Education Center new page, and there's a little post about it with a link to our registration page. Click on that, fill it out, and then you're good to go, okay? All right, learning goals. Okay, so one of the government standards for this course is that you will compile a literacy portfolio in order to demonstrate your growth in literacy skills. For each of the required types of text that we read, informational, narrative, and graphic, and for each of the forms of writing produced, summary, information, opinion, and news report, students are supposed to decide independently which ones are the most successful reading responses and pieces of writing, and explain briefly in writing the reasons for their choice. And we did that in assignment 43 and also in assignment 44. And then review the record of your progress in their learning journal as well as their reading response and writing samples produced during the course in order to describe their growth in reading and writing skills. We've done that multiple times throughout the course in your journals, and we did it again in assignments 43 and 44. Okay. Now, one of the different things about yesterday's class and today's class is that I'm talking about several assignments simultaneously because they kind of interact with each other, right? Like you're creating the portfolio, but then you're going to use the portfolio to reflect on it and write an essay about it. So that's why I'm trying to kind of talk about them both at the same time. Assignment 43 is you organize your assignments into three major categories: reading, writing, and journals. Reading has three subcategories, writing has four subcategories, journals just journals. Each of the subcategories, I've put a list together of what assignments belong in that part, and then some lined space to reflect on which one of those types is your best and explain why. This also helps you get your assignments organized and helps you to start putting together your portfolio. That is worth, it says 60 marks. I would have to check. Yeah, no, it is because there's 20 for reading, 20 for writing, and 20 for journals. And then assignment 44 uses all the work and reflections that you did to help you write an essay. So they kind of build on each other. So in last year's version of the course, you do the portfolio last. For me, I'm saying do the portfolio earlier so you have what you need to be able to do your writing. Okay. The portfolio is the place to showcase all your assignments, and the inventory and reflection sheets that we did in A43 serve as the first page in each of the category to help you keep things organized. This is also where you would include your reading logs and your final assignment 44. This is worth 10% of your final grade. Okay. So there's a cover page. A lot of people skip this, but don't because it's worth like 5 marks. It's such an easy 5 marks. Your name, your community, the course name, and the date. The reading logs. You should probably have at least 4 or 5 pages worth, right? You should probably have one for each unit. Assignment 43, that's all those reading inventory pages. And then assignment 43, all the writing inventory pages. Sorry, I don't know why it's, oh, hang on. Sorry, it disappeared the numbers again. I don't know why it does that, but it doesn't like it. The reading and writing assignments, if you did more than one draft, it has to be labeled like rough draft, revised draft, final draft. Sometimes students will have like rough draft 1, rough draft 2. That's fine. I just need to know what it is. Okay, it's just one of the requirements. And then we have all the journal requirements. Most of the journals did not have rough drafts, but if it did, then obviously include it. Or if you did one, even if I didn't ask for one, that's fine. Include that too. And then the very final thing. Now, the reason I'm saying final is because if you're putting things together, you might as well do the other part first because this is the last assignment. So let's put it in last. Last year we had it in first as an introduction, but I think it makes more sense here. So this is what we're working on today is assignment 44. Okay. All right. Okay, the course portfolio marking scheme just kind of quickly. 5 marks for each of the completed 6 sections, which you've already put together, right? So that's easy marks. Overall organization and neatness, 10 marks. Keep in mind, anything in there that has not been marked, you need to hand it in to me separately and then put it in the portfolio. I don't go through the portfolio and all 43 assignments to see if there's any that I haven't marked yet. Okay, that part is on you. That's your responsibility. Okay, please don't skip the portfolio. I know it's a bit of work, but that's because it's worth 20%, 10% of your grade. That's why it's worth so much. Okay, skipping this assignment usually means you drop your grade down about, well, an entire grade. So if you were working at a C, now your grade goes down to a D. If you were working at a D, now you're failing the course. So it's really worth it to do it. Okay. So here's an example of what my cover page might look like. And then here are all the sections, the portfolio cover page, the reading logs, the reading assignments, the writing assignments, the journal assignments, and assignment 44, your essay on your literacy growth. So the reading, hang on, let me just kind of shorten this. Okay. So quickly on the writing assignments, if you have an older version, I put informational paragraph as a type of summary. It technically should be a part of informational writing. That's kind of tricky because informational writing actually covers summaries, but I fixed this in the course notes. If you have it more recently, you're fine, but also you might have got confused if you were watching it yesterday. So you look at the summaries, pick which one you think is the best, and then explain it. You date submitted, you should be writing down what date you handed those in. If you're not sure, just put what date I handed it back to you. That's kind of close enough. So I would have this page in the front, and then I would have all my assignments behind it. Okay. That way I have them right there to take a look at and see what I think and whether I agree with you, basically. Okay, where are we? Remember, for each writing assignment, you need to hand in all the drafts you made, rough draft, revised draft, final copy. You don't need to hand in the brainstorming, but you're welcome to. I know some people do, that's fine. Might as well keep it all together as far as I'm concerned. Um, ba, ba, ba. If you didn't label them clearly when you handed them in originally, please go back and label them now. I will not read them to try and figure it out. I will simply take marks off because it is unlabeled. There were very few reading assignments that you would have done multiple drafts for. If there are any, just go ahead and label them too, okay? Let's see here. Okay, so now talking about the essay. So this is kind of an opinion essay, but an opinion essay about your own work. Tell me your opinion of your reading and writing progress over the length of the course. Did you meet your literacy goals that you set back in assignment number 5? Have you improved in other ways that you might not have expected? This assignment serves as the introduction to your literacy portfolio, which is the last assignment. The rough copy of this is worth 15. The final copy is worth 25. Occasionally, I have people try and skip the rough copy. Please don't, because it cuts your marks significantly when you do that. Do a rough copy and do a final copy. Okay, it's worth it marks-wise. Okay, so your very first paragraph should be an introductory paragraph that kind of explains your overall opinion on your progress, and then your specific opinion on your reading skills, your writing skills, and your journals. Okay? Then your second paragraph is a paragraph about your progress in reading skills. Now, occasionally people will tell me how much they liked reading the novel. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for how have your reading skills improved? And by that, I usually mean your comprehension, right? In grade 12, I'm not worried about your decoding skills for the most part. I'm worried about how well you understood what you read and how well you were able to explain that understanding. Okay, so look through the 3 reading assignment sheets. You've already picked your best in each category. Now, of the 3 categories, which one was your best? Okay, and then your next paragraph should be about writing. Same thing, compare your writing skills at the beginning of the course to your skills at the end of the course. Now, do not mention a piece of writing done before the course started, because the topic is not what is your best writing ever, but what is your best writing from this course? Okay, and how have your writing skills improved in this course? There are 4 writing assignment sheets. flip through them. You've already picked out your best for each category. Now, of the 4 categories, which one do you think you did best? Use those reflections to help you write the paragraph. And then the 4th paragraph is about your journals and how did you improve in self-reflective writing? That's kind of a whole style of writing in its own, and so that's what I want you to take a look at. There is less material to discuss in this category, so you may also want to look at general overall improvement in what you understand about the journal prompts from the beginning to the end. And then you want a concluding paragraph that restates the main opinion of your overall progress and your specific progress in reading, writing, and journals. Okay. Um, okay. Let's see here. So if you picture each of these little blocks as a paragraph, here are your 5 paragraphs. This is just a visual way to look at it. It doesn't change anything I said. I just know some people are visual learners. This is exactly the same style that we did in assignment 26, where we picked a topic to write about, okay? Read through this checklist before you start so you've got an idea about what kind of things I'm expecting, okay? First of all, your introductory paragraph should be at least 3 to 4 sentences long. It should explain your main opinion of your overall progress. Your paragraph on reading progress should give specific areas in which you made progress, with at least 3 to 4 specific examples from any assignment. Writing, again, give me specific areas in which you made progress, with at least 3 to 4 specific examples. And then your concluding paragraph should restate your main opinion, and it should be at least 3 to 4 sentences long. Leave a space between each paragraph. Your sentences should all be complete, but without long run-ons. Make sure you've checked for usage and grammar errors and checked for punctuation and capitalization errors. So read through that before and then read through it again and check, okay? This is the revised rubric. I use the same rubric for the rough draft and the good draft. The only difference is, as you can see, I really look in the good copy for improvements. If your good copy looks exactly the same as your rough copy, your marks will actually go down because I was expecting to see improvements. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm checking for your knowledge of paragraph format and the topic and improvements in the good copy if I'm looking at the good copy. Critical and creative thinking skills, selecting the main details, organizing your information, providing your reasons and examples, and then moving on to communication. How do you write, basically? How do you communicate your ideas? Does it show that you have an awareness of your purpose, your audience, your tone, your style? Application. Application, I'm looking at, are you using the conventions of grammar, usage, spelling, and punctuation correctly? I am also looking for, are you able to apply the writing process? So again, if there's no difference between your rough draft and your good draft, you're going to get either a D or a 0 there, probably a 0. So it will, like I said, it will significantly affect your marks if you don't use the writing process, okay? So I grabbed a different one to just kind of review how the 5-paragraph essay sounds. I know that the writing is a little bit wonky here. This is from a government document where it's their samples to teachers on what we should be looking for a good opinion essay. So I'm sharing it with you so you know what I've been told to look for, basically. So here, the journal prompt is, or the opinion prompt is, do people depend too much on technology? And here is their introductory paragraph. The advancement of technology has in many ways made our lives much easier. The things we could never think about happening in the past have been made possible with the advancement of technology. However, with technology making our lives easier, we humans have started to depend on it too much. In my opinion, people depend on too much on technology as it is becoming a tool for fast, effective communication. Hang on a sec, what is that word? Something for school purposes, increasingly as well as personal entertainment. What is that word? Being engraved? Encouraged, maybe? I'm not sure what word they were trying to aim for there. All right. Your first body paragraph. Technological advancements have made communication much faster and easier. So that's their big idea. Okay, I'm just gonna hang on, I'm gonna kind of draw that out there. Hang on. This is their big idea. Okay, and then they're gonna add a bunch of details. For messages that had to once be delivered by people physically delivering the message, we now call text or email. So there's one idea supporting their big idea. However, the fact that it's easier doesn't make it difficult to notice that everyone is communicating through screens and less in person. So that's 2. Studies have shown that teens aged 15 to 18 have problems communicating with people in person due to the growing use of cell phones and computers. The increased use of cell phones and computers hinders with real-life communication of many individuals, and this is because we are becoming too dependent on technology for communication purposes. Okay, so here she's kind of doing her closing here, and then she's tying it in to her overall opinion there. Okay, now we're looking at the second body paragraph. In addition, the use of cell phones and computers in school and for school purposes have has contributed to making people more dependent on technology. Okay, so here is her second big idea, that because we use it in school, it's helping to make us more dependent. For instance, homework was once physically written on the board, and students used to have to write it down themselves. With technology advancing, the teacher can now post the homework on an app like Google Classroom and have kids submit homework online as well. Okay, so I will confess that I am from these bad old days where our work was indeed written on the board and we indeed copied it off. Okay, however, this can cause problems since things like autocorrect and Grammarly will help fix students' mistakes, but students will never learn how to spell words correctly without Grammarly or autocorrect. So that's her second idea. Okay, so here's 2. Okay. It actually took her like 2 sentences to explain her first idea. Professor Dave Robinson from the University of Toronto states that students something into type their work and use autocorrect will naturally spell worse than those who don't, since their spelling mistakes are fixed automatically. The increased use of technology has made people more dependent on it. So now, technically, there's a lot of sentences here, but there's actually 2 sentences going for the one idea. That's okay. I prefer 3, but it still is a legitimately long paragraph, so I'm okay with that. And then our third paragraph is, finally, our use of technology for personal entertainment also makes us more dependent on technology. Kids in the past used to relax, uh, take part in more physical activities to have fun, but with televisions around, kids are entertained while being seated, which promotes obesity as well. However, it sounds easier to sit around than have fun, which makes it more dependent on technology. Okay, so here I would say, hang on. Here is her, oop, here's her next big idea. Here's her first detail. There's her second detail. Now this one is a little bit short. This one, I'm going to just put a little X mark. It could use more. Same thing with her conclusion. Okay. She's basically got one sentence here. In conclusion, I believe that people are becoming too dependent. Too dependent on technology, as it is becoming an easier way to communicate, complete schoolwork, and entertain ourselves. If I were her teacher, I would have said, breaking each of these up into 3 sentences would have made for a longer paragraph. Now, because this is based on actual student work and it's a timed test, originally my stuff isn't timed, but the Ontario test is timed, maybe she ran out of time near the end and kind of was racing a little bit, okay? So now, in the essay, you see the introductory paragraph first. But to my mind, I don't find that the easiest one to write first. I usually leave that part to the end. I don't know if I'm unique in this one. I start with the body paragraphs. They are way easier to write. And then once yours are written, it's so much easier to write the introductory paragraphs. So let me show you what I mean here. Okay. The overall purpose of this writing is to serve as an introduction to your literacy portfolio. You're reflecting on your progress. Um, you're looking at your literacy goals. Were they reasonable? Were they unreasonable? Did you meet them? Did you not meet them? Um, I often write the body paragraphs first because it's more specific. Like I already said, write about the reading. Okay, well, now I know exactly what to look for, and I can think of some ideas exactly about what to write about. Remember that each paragraph should continue to follow good paragraph structure, right? So that means you should still have an opening sentence that works like a bond, and then at least 3 to 4 middle sentences, or what we call body sentences, and then your closing right there. Okay. So sometimes people forget the closing because they're doing and going right on to another paragraph, but each paragraph gets its own close. Okay. So take a look at the main categories such as reading, look at the reflections. When you picked your best assignment, did you notice some similarities? Like, were there some things that you improved at in every category? You might also want to think about what were your weakest assignments. If you compare your weakest assignments to your strongest, what do you notice? The other thing you might want to do is look at my comments. Sometimes I will mention things that have improved. Like if I say, much better work explaining your ideas, okay, well, that's an area that I've noticed that you've improved, so you probably have improved there. Other times I might not mention improvement, but I might just say something I thought you did well, like, oh, beautiful writing style, or great explanation with lots of details. So those might be things that are your strengths. Okay. So I would look at all three. These would all be filled out, right? Because I would already have done that. And I would be able to see, hey, are there some similarities? Am I mentioning that, hey, I've gotten better at understanding theme? Am I mentioning that I'm getting better at using reading strategies? Am I getting better at understanding character traits? What am I beginning to notice as a pattern for how I've improved? Okay. Mm. We did already talk about this, but there is like lists in assignment 43 about different reasons why you might choose a reading assignment as your best, and they would apply here as well. Okay. I'm not going to reread all of those, but they're there. Okay. I would also jot down some notes. I find the more notes I make before I start writing, the better my writing usually is. So here, I'm going to look at the narrative. My best one I thought was A19. Why was it the best? I understood the characters and the events, and I could find details to support my opinions. I was good at visualizing how the character would create a Facebook ad. I was good at translating Gary's voice into an imaginary Facebook post. I used good tone, vocabulary, writing style, etc. For the graphic, I thought my best one was A29. What are they selling? I understood, was able to explain why I thought the image was more important than the product in the Hulk ad. I was able to give a good detailed description of how the ad looked physically, as well as the atmosphere, and I felt like I had good sentence variety in this assignment. And then finally, in the informational category, I felt like my best one was A22. I was able to use the skimming and scanning techniques really well. I described the main idea with a good level of detail, and I easily located information in the text to answer the questions. Okay, so what am I noticing that's the same? I felt like I understood all the text well, and I explained my ideas well. I was good at visualizing and explaining any kind of visual details. I was comfortable with using different reading strategies, and I found it easy to locate the details to answer questions. Now, I might not want to use all of these. I might want to pick 3 or 4 that are the best ones or the most important ones. So here's how I might turn those notes into a rough draft. Overall, I noticed a lot of improvements in my reading skills over this course. Okay, so that's a very vague statement, but that's deliberate so that I can talk about a whole bunch of different small things. I've always been a good reader, and I definitely felt that I understood the text we read very well. I think my ability to explain my understanding improved because I started using more details from the text to support my answers. I didn't realize I was supposed to do that before. I don't remember learning about reading strategies in school, and at first I found some of them hard to understand. I was able to understand and use visualization pretty quickly, which helped me to answer questions about Chapter 3 in Assignment 19. I noticed those visual details in assignments like A29, and I believe I did a great job describing visual content in that kind of graphic text. I liked using skimming and scanning because it was quicker than reading the regular way, and I think it made doing assignments like A22, where we read the textbook, much easier. But I also feel like I used it when trying to answer questions about the characters and events in the book. I was very happy with my marks and think that they show that I improved and did well in most of the reading assignments in this course. Okay. So then you're going to do the exact same thing for the other 2 body paragraphs. Look at the inventory sheets, take a look at the notes, create some more notes, and then turn those notes into a rough draft. Um, Remember that, hang on, let me just check quick. All right, I've got quite a way to go. These are all the ways that you could pick to look at for why you consider your writing assignment best. I'm not going to read it. If you want to slow down, you can just kind of like pause it and take a look at it. This is why you might say that a journal assignment is best. So these are all the ideas. Again, if you need some ideas here, pause the video and you can take a look at that. All right, writing an introductory paragraph. So, hang on a second. Some teachers suggest a hook or an interesting lead-in as the first sentence, which is fine. I think it's easier just to put my main statement there, but not everybody does. But that's what I'm going to ask for you, okay? So first of all, think about what's your big idea. Here I've got, I believe that schools should begin making 45 minutes of gym every day mandatory in elementary schools. And then for each of my big supporting arguments, I'm going to give each one of those their own sentence. One reason is because making kids sit for 5 to 6 hours a day is not healthy for their bodies. My second reason is because many studies show improved academic success when students have regular exercise. My third reason is that it would counteract all the screen time students are getting both at home and at school. Creating access to physical exercise through a mandated gym period can be the cure we need for helping students develop a well-balanced life with physical and academic success. Okay, hang on. So once you've got the body paragraphs done, that's why it's much easier because I already know what's my big idea about my progress, what's my big idea about reading, writing, and reflection. Once I have those already figured out, it's so much easier to write my introductory paragraph, right? Sometimes what people find hard is I know what to say about the individual spots of reading, writing, and reflection, but how do I create kind of one general statement that includes all of them? Is there a general way for me to summarize what I see? So here I kind of wrote down what I was seeing in all 3 categories and then stepped back to take a look at it. Little progress in reading because I was already pretty strong. Good progress in some writing formats that I hadn't done before, like news reports and the dialogue piece. And then some progress in reflective writing because I found that kind of hard. So I could phrase this differently. Overall, throughout this course, I feel that it strengthened some of my weak areas in literacy. Hang I'm going to try and shorten this a little bit. I thought I had another. I did. Okay. The course was useful in improving some, but not all of my communication skills. This course introduced me to some new ideas and new strategies that I was able to apply to improve my overall English skills. So those all kind of are ways of summarizing what those 3 notes say. Okay. Okay. Oops. All right, so here I've got my notes. I've got some of my basic ideas. I'm going to use all that to help me begin to write my paragraph. This course was useful in improving some, but not all of my communication skills. I felt like I didn't make much progress in reading, but that's partly because I was already a good reader. I made good progress in learning how to write in some new formats that I was unfamiliar with creating. I made some progress in reflective writing, but continued to find that challenging by the end of the course. Overall, I feel this course was worthwhile because it was helpful in increasing many of my abilities. Sorry, I can see I forgot a few things there. Um, this is one reason why you can read things out loud, because you always catch more of your mistakes when you read out loud. Okay, now once you got your introductory paragraph done, that can help you set up your concluding paragraph because they should echo each other. The introductory paragraph will have the main idea of the overall essay. The concluding paragraph should restate the main idea. You state your main idea about your reading, then you restate the main idea about reading. Main idea about writing, restate the main idea about writing. Main idea about journals, restate the main idea about journals. Restate the main idea of your overall essay, restate the main idea of the overall essay. So it's really very similar. So once the first one's right, I would just put them right next to each other and just work on them both together so they don't sound too similar, but the main ideas are still there. Okay. So here I've got the main idea of the overall essay says, hang on. I think that my literacy skills in reading, writing, and self-reflecting have improved dramatically over the length of this course. I restated it like, looking over my assignments, it is rewarding to see so many improvements in my reading, writing, and reflecting skills. They're basically the same. My main idea on reading. There were many improvements in my reading skills, such as understanding how to use reading strategies, my vocabulary, and explaining my answers more effectively. Many small improvements in different reading skills and strategies created a big improvement in my overall reading assignments. Okay, and then skipping down to the bottom, when I restate the idea in the introductory paragraph, I intend to explain the many ways I have seen my literacy skills increase during this course. That's a fine way to begin to discuss your ideas. But at the end, we kind of more want to wrap it up. In general, my literacy skills have improved in lots of different ways that have given me increased confidence in my ability to communicate. So it doesn't need to be very long. It essentially restates what the essay's already said. You may want to come up with some sort of grand overall conclusion about your topic. Some people set a new goal going forward, but it should really point my attention to what you want me to notice in your portfolio. Do you want me to notice how your writing length has increased? Or maybe that you've begun to do more work with compound and complex sentences. Maybe you really worked to shorten run-on sentences. Possibly you tried to work with transition words more. Maybe you used certain reading strategies more as you went through the novel. Maybe there is a reading assignment that you feel really shows some important progress you made. This is your chance to sell your work a little and make sure I can see your work through your eyes and see all the parts that you worked on so hard. So originally I was talking about mandatory gym time. Here is how my closing paragraph might sound for that. There are so many reasons why mandatory gym time could help students in their life. The exercise itself is a healthy break from too much sitting. The exercise energizes children's brains and allows them to achieve more at school. It also gives them some opportunities for learning socialization, sportsmanship, and gameplay that they are no longer getting at home in this digital age. I believe these benefits would be helpful to students, teachers, and our communities. Okay, so now you've got your first draft. Snap a picture of it or photograph it so you have a copy before you touch it. Okay, if you're able to scan it or get two printed copies, that would be even better. Now, go through and look for places where you could make your meaning more clear, places where you need to add an example, places where you could add more details to an example. Check your sentence structure to make sure you've got complete sentences. Check that you don't have run-on sentences. Remember to use transition words at the beginning of sentences. So there are sequencing words like first, second, third, fourth, next, then, after that. Then there are ones where we add information, in addition, also, as well. And there's ones we can use for examples, like for example, as an example. Furthermore is kind of more like another, well, it could be an example or it could be adding in extra information. There are also conjunctions to join two clauses together, which can give your writing sentence variety. Things like but, although, however, therefore, since, or because. Okay. One way to make your writing sound smoother is to use a technique called parallelism. And it's usually used when you're writing about items in a list, a series, or even sometimes just a pair of items. It's often a phrase, and the idea is that the series of items should all use the same grammar structure because it sounds better to our ears. So, for example, a list of adjectives wouldn't suddenly include a verb phrase. Example, the building was tall, majestic, and cost a lot of money. Tall and majestic are adjectives. Cost a lot of money is a verb phrase or a complete predicate. Now, sometimes you'll see writers do this in novels, but usually when they're trying to like be funny or sound sarcastic or make things stand out. The sentence would sound better if we choose an adjective that means the same thing, like expensive. The building was tall, majestic, and expensive. Another mistake is when people use a series of verbs or verb phrases and then suddenly add a different type of speech like a noun. He loved swimming, running, bicycling, and pizza. It would sound better if you included a verb. He loved swimming, running, bicycling, and eating pizza, right? The parallel part is that they all have the ing. If you had written the sentence with verb phrases, you would want to continue them. He loved swimming in the pool, running in the park, bicycling down the trails, and eating pizza at the cafes. See how they all have kind of a little bit of a similar pattern? For some reason, it just makes them more pleasant for our ear to hear. Okay? Finally, before you edit, make sure to check before you hand it in, make sure to check and do your editing. Capitalization, usage and grammar errors, punctuation errors, and spelling. Okay. We have discussed the rules for capitalization many times. The first letter in names, titles, and sentences. I just want to mention, if you're editing a bunch of run-on sentences, make sure that when you do that, you don't just plop a period there, you turn it into a proper sentence. Now, we don't start a sentence with and because and is a joining word, and there's nothing to join there. So we cross that off, and that I would suddenly become a capital I. Okay, so that's one thing to look out for when you've been playing around with your stuff. Okay, I must always be capitalized, including when it is part of a contraction like I'd, I'll, I've, or I'm. The other thing is, for some reason, people will suddenly throw a capital letter after a comma or a semicolon, but it doesn't need it. I went to go to the park and then we got ice cream, but there's no reason for and to be capitalized there because it's not the beginning of a sentence. That's very light. I hope you can see that. Hang on, I'm gonna go back with the red. Okay. I went to the park and then we got ice cream. Okay. So don't just throw in capital letters anywhere. They have to have a reason for that. Usage is a very general category because it just really means anything grammatical. Um, some things to watch out for: words in the wrong order. Every sentence must have a subject and a verb and make sense. Singular nouns must have an article in front of them. Plural nouns cannot use a or an, but can use the. So if I were to pick the two most common issues I see, oops, hang on. Why does it not want to do that? This one. Every sentence must have a subject. For some reason, a lot of people skip it and start with a verb. The other one is this one, forgetting to use a, an, and the in front of singular nouns. When I'm reading through for grammatical mistakes, those are the really common ones. Okay. Most people use question marks and exclamation marks just fine, but for some reason, people are often not using periods at the end of a sentence. They're trying to use a comma instead. Okay. You cannot use a comma to join two sentences. Commas can be used to separate items in a list. Please buy me milk, comma, bread, comma, butter, comma, and potatoes. It can be used to separate short phrases. In the summer, they love to go camping, comma, to pick blueberries, comma, and to go fishing, period. But you cannot use it to separate or try and join two sentences. I loved my little brother, comma, we always played hockey together. Hang on. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay. Um, Less well-known punctuation, dashes. If you're not comfortable with these ones, dashes, colons, and semicolons, just don't use them. That's the easiest thing because there's no requirement that you use them. Dashes are usually used to introduce a list, to provide further information, to provide emphasis, or to define a word. Like here, I loved traditional activities, dash, hunting, fishing, and camping. Colons. Colons can be used to show dialogue in plays or interviews, for emphasis, to introduce a big list of tabbed materials, to clarify titles for books, and they're also used in time. Now, I'm pointing out here, this could be done with a dash. It could also be done with a colon. I love traditional activities, colon, hunting, fishing, and camping. Either one of those is correct. Like one isn't more correct than the other. Semicolons are used to join two sentences. You don't need to use a conjunction for them. Okay? Where's my time? Finally, keep in mind, spelling programs do not catch every single mistake. This is an area that I know is very confusing to people, okay? It will not catch spelling mistakes if you were using words from a different language. Place names, if it's not familiar with, it might tell you that Pikanjicum is a wrong word, even though you know it's spelled correctly. So that's going to be thinking of, well, it also doesn't always catch semicolon mistakes. Hang on, what happened there? Oh, hang on. When you used a word that is spelled correctly, but is not the word you were trying to use. So he was a leader that influenced others, but you accidentally wrote he was a leader that inflamed others. Those are similar words, but it's not spelled incorrectly. It's not quite what you wanted to say, though. The place where this really happens is either homophones or near homophones, words that sound the same but have a different spelling and a different meaning. The three most common ones are right here. TO is location, TWO is the number, TOO is also, like me too. There, T-H-E-R-E is location, like he's over there. T-H-E-I-R is possessive, that is their car. And T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E is a contraction for they are, like they're going to the movies. And then it's IT apostrophe S is a contraction for it is, like it's sunny out. Or ITS is possessive. The dog hurt its paw, the paw that belonged to it. Okay? If you're having any trouble with that assignment, feel free to send me a little email and we can kind of help you and get things worked out. Have a good evening, and tomorrow will be the last class.